This week in the Italian campaign, brought to you by the Freedom for Italy Second World War History Network. Episode 56, the Battle for Monte Battaglia, the Fifth Army advance, and the Eighth Army attack beyond Rimini. By the 22nd of September 1944, Allied armies were poised to break through to the Po Valley, the most highly populated part of Italy, and the location of the bulk of its industrial and agricultural capacity, but the hopes that the fracturing of the Gothic line at the start of the month would lead to a complete withdrawal of German forces beyond the Po were disappointed. On the Fifth Army front, two corps advanced north of the Giogo and Futta passes. On the 20th of September, America's 88th Division had been ordered to lead the main thrust toward Imola. It attacked at 5 o'clock in the morning on the 21st of September with the support of 760 Tank Battalion and the 805 Tank Destroyer and 84th Chemical Battalions. By the end of the day, 88th Division was moving rapidly through the hills on each side of the Santerno River. Its 349, 350 and 351 infantry regiments were abreast on a line from Monte Fine to Monte della Croce by the end of the 23rd of September. The Germans prepared to block further progress. The 362 Grenadier Division entered the line north of Firenzuola to join 755 Regiment, 305 Fusilier Battalion, elements of 132 Grenadier Regiment, rear echelon personnel of 715 Grenadier Division, elements of the 1028 Grenadier Regiment, the 44th Grenadier Division, and a company of Italian bersaglieri. With the arrival of 3 regiments of the 44th Division, the Germans were ready. 349 infantry seized Monte Pratalungo before dark and took Hill 434 overlooking Highway 937 the next day. 351 infantry captured Castel del Rio on the morning of the 27th. It advanced to take the high ground formed by the junction of Highway 937 with Highway 6528 and Monte Capello. This high point was eventually captured on the 30th of September. 350 infantry seized Monte del Puntale on the first day of the attack, and as it moved forward, the gap between the 88th Division and Britain's 1st Division on the right increased to as much as 8,000 yards. Dismounted tank crews from 760 Tank Battalion were supplemented by combat units from Army Reserve. The 14th Armoured Infantry Battalion was committed, followed by the 6th Armoured Infantry Battalion, to cover the division's exposed flank and protect 350 Infantry's supply lines. To clear high points east of the Santerno, the 2nd Battalion of 350 Infantry captured a Monte Carnevale on the morning of the 27th of September and moved towards the 2,345-foot Monte Battaglia, which a partisan band claimed it held. The regiment reached the castle on its summit at 3:30 in the afternoon and waited for 351 infantry to come up on the left. It was isolated and exposed to attacks from the northwest, east and south, and all supplies and reinforcements were brought up along a narrow ridge that was subject to harassing artillery fire. The first German counterattack on Monte Battaglia, launched by a company of 715 Grenadiers on the afternoon of the 27th of September, was repulsed. The 2nd Battalion of 350 Infantry was shelled through the night. A fresh German attack at 5:30 on the morning of the 28th of September was beaten back within a few yards of the crest. Attacks involving 30 to 40 Germans continued during the morning. At 2:30 in the afternoon, artillery and mortars pounded the Americans, and at 5, 4 battalions from 715 and 44 Grenadiers fought their way almost to the summit before they were repulsed. Reinforcements were brought up, but the position was still precarious. On the morning of the 29th of September, a force estimated at regiment strength advanced through fog up Battaglia's steep northwestern slope. By 9, the attack had reached the crest, and Germans entered the castle before being driven back once more. Defence of the right flank and of the Monte Carnevale ridge supply route was turned over to armoured infantry of the CCA. A whole of 350 infantry was ordered onto Monte Battaglia. Before the reinforcements arrived, the 2nd Battalion was forced to beat off yet another attack. In the early hours of the 30th of September, a German with a flamethrower penetrated into the castle. This attack was again beaten back. German artillery pounded the mountain for the rest of the day. Yet another German attack at 6 o'clock on the morning of the 1st of October was quickly repulsed. Clear skies in the afternoon made accurate Allied artillery fire possible at last. The Monte Battaglia garrison had been reinforced, and the capture of Monte Capello on the 30th of September and the arrival of British units on the right blocked further attacks on the flanks. The Germans continued to attack Battaglia unsuccessfully in the first days of October, but they still effectively blocked the road to Imola. General Clark recognized that the initiative had been lost and that the Santerno corridor was too narrow. He shifted the emphasis of the two-corps offensive back to Highway 65. The cost of 88 divisions' advance between the 21st of September and the 3rd of October had been enormous. It suffered more than 2,000 casualties. This was close to two corps' total casualties in the 6-day battle to breach the Gothic line. Elsewhere on the two-corps front, the 85th Division had attacked Montelafine on the 22nd of September to assist the drive of the 88th Division in the Santerno Valley, and on the left towards Monte Canda, in conjunction with a 91st Division attack on Radicosa Pass. Montelafine was taken, and Highway 6529 was cleared to the north. 338 Infantry led the attack on Monte Canda on the morning of the 25th of September, but it was blocked. Before dawn on the 26th of September, 339 Infantry and 338 Infantry, supported by tanks from 752 Tank Battalion, attacked Torre Poggioli. 339 Infantry repeated its effort to reach Monterello. The next morning, 2 battalions of 338 Infantry reached the crest of Torre Poggioli, while Sambuco was taken. On the night of the 27th of September, the German 362 Grenadier Division began to withdraw. At noon, on the 28th of September, 338 Infantry advanced and found Monte Canda was unoccupied. After securing Futa Pass astride Highway 65, the 91st Division had been ordered to take Montefredi and Monte Beni. 361 and 362 regiments jumped off at 5:30 on the morning of the 24th of September. At the end of the 26th of September, both mountains had been secured. At 6:30 in the morning of the 27th of September, 361 and 363 infantry attacked Monte Oggioli, which the Germans abandoned the following day. The 34th Division had all three of its regiments in the line on the 23rd of September. In the morning of the 24th of September, 168 Infantry captured Monte Coroncina and held it all day against repeated counterattacks. 135 Infantry, under heavy fire, pressed north through the village of Ronco Bellaccio. After consolidating its hold on Coroncina, 168 Infantry swung northeast to assist 135 Infantry in its drive towards Monte Bastione. 135 Infantry occupied Bastione before noon on the 28th of September. The next day, its 2nd Battalion reached the village of Fornelli, 3 miles to the north. The only resistance met during the 29th of September was at Montefredente, where the 1st Battalion of 168 Infantry repulsed an enemy counterattack. Fifth Army's right, 1st Division in Britain's 13 Corps was advancing north along Highway 6521, which passed through the northern Apennines to follow the Monte River valley to Faenza. The 8th Indian Division was on Highway 67, which followed the valley of the River Montone to Forlì. 6th Armoured Division on 13 Corps' right lagged behind because of the inability of its tanks to operate in mountains. The 1st Division was ordered to branch off left from Highway 6521 to follow a track to Palazzuolo on the road that followed the Senio River Valley. It was then to clear German positions on the high points of Carnevale, Gambaraldi and Tonconi, all of them over 2,600 feet high, which overlooked Highway 934, which ran to Maradi. The 8th Indian Division was given the task of clearing a secondary road from San Benedetto in Alpe to Maradi for supplies to be delivered to support the drive along Highway 6521. 66th Brigade in the 1st Division reached Palazzuolo on the 25th of September, and 2 Brigade took Monte Carnevale. 66th Brigade captured Tonconi on the 27th, forcing the Germans to abandon Gambaraldi. The 8th Indian Division had by then reached both ends of the San Benedetto-Maradi road. 19 Indian Brigades sent patrols into the hills to the east of the road to make contact with the right flank of the 17th Indian Brigade below Monte Castelnuovo, which the Germans had by then abandoned. At the end of the month, 17th Brigade began relieving the right flank of the 1st Division in preparation for a drive on Highway 6521. On Highway 67, 61 Brigade of the 6th Armoured Division entered San Benedetto on the 25th of September and sent the 7th Battalion of the Rifle Brigade along the highway to the village of Buconi. While 2 Corps was advancing, 4 Corps on its left was regrouping to release the bulk of the 1st Armoured Division, trying to maintain contact with the left flank of 2 Corps and following up German withdrawals. Beginning on the 26th of September, the Corps renewed its advance. The 1st Battalion of the African-American 370 Infantry in the 92nd Division followed Highway 12 on the east side of the Serchio Valley, while the 3rd Battalion advanced on the west. The 2nd Battalion captured the high ground overlooking Lima Creek near Bagni di Lucca, and elements of Combat Command B reached Lucio, 7 miles further up the Lima Valley by the 28th. Task Force 92 had passed through the Gothic Line defences in the Serchio Valley and sealed off the east-west portion of Highway 12. On the 30th of September, the 3rd Battalion of 370 Infantry entered La Lima. The regiment continued the advance up Highway 12 to the northwest. To the left of 2 Corps, the South African advance had also begun on the 24th of September. The 11th South African Armoured Brigade was ordered to drive up Highway 6620, while the 12th South African Motorised Brigade moved up along Highway 64. 24th Grants Brigade, part of the division, was advancing along Highway 66. On the 27th of September, the Imperial Light Horse Kimberley Regiment reached the outskirts of Castiglione del Popoli. It was decided to hand over Route 66 to Task Force 92 in 4 Corps, as the South African engineers weren't able to maintain 3 routes simultaneously. This allowed the transfer of the Guards Brigade to reunite with 11th Brigade on Highway 6620. The Guards arrived in Castiglione on the 28th of September. The Scots Guards unsuccessfully attacked Monte Catarelto on the morning of the 30th, and the Coldstream Guards advanced towards Bucciani Ridge the next day. The Germans withdrew from these positions on the night of the 3rd of October. The attacks cost the Guards Brigade more than 100 killed, wounded, and taken prisoner. On 4 Corps' left, the 6th Combat Team of the Brazilian Expeditionary Force was given the task of reaching Castelnuovo 15 miles up the Serchio River from its junction with Lima Creek. On the 29th of September, it reached Fornoli. And at the same time, the Brazilians advanced from the coast to take Stezema in the foothills of the 6,000-foot Pagna della Croce mountain. On the Adriatic front the previous week, the 2nd New Zealand Division had been deployed to lead the advance along the Adriatic coast. On the 22nd of September, it pushed to the Canale Viserba, which crossed the Via Adriatica about a mile beyond the Tiberias Ridge, over what was then the main course of the Marecchia River. The main 8th Army attack on the 22nd of September 1944 involved the 4th Indian, the 46th and the 1st Armoured Divisions in 5 Corps advancing over the Marecchia River on a wide front southwest of San Arcangelo. The following morning, 5th Canadian Division advanced out of the bridgehead north of the river. On the morning of the 24th, the Westminsters and Strathconas were about a mile east of San Vito. The 1st Canadian Light Anti-Aircraft Battalion advanced to take the east bank of the Ouzo about 500 yards downstream from San Vito. The river was crossed later that day, and the Canadians were 1,000 yards beyond the Ouzo on the 25th. The Light Anti-Aircraft Battalion crossed about 3/4 of a mile north of San Vito, and on the right flank, the brigade's 3rd bridgehead was established by the remaining Westminster companies. On the corps' right, the New Zealanders made slow progress against the remnants of paratroop units. On the 5th Corps' front, the 1st Armoured Division captured San Arcangelo and crossed the Ouzo on the 25th. The 56th Division was close to the Fiumicino at Savignano, but the 46th and the 4th Indian Divisions could not keep pace and had only light forces over the Ouzo by the 26th. On the morning of the 27th of September, Canada's 11th Brigade began advancing towards the Fiumicino River. The Irish Regiment of Canada crossed the Salto and reached San Mauro. On the brigade's right, the Cape Breton Highlanders, without armoured support, had forded the Salto on the afternoon of the 27th, but were blocked by the 29th Panzer Grenadiers, only 500 yards from the Fiumicino River. On the 28th, the Cape Bretons advanced to Fiumicino village to seize a bridge, while the Perth Regiment went cross-country on the right to secure the river road at a point half-mile to the north. The village was taken at 10 o'clock, but it was too late to save the bridge. The Perths secured their objective by last light. Heavy rain forced the cancellation of a night assault across the Fiumicino, which had become a 30-foot wide torrent. By the morning of the 29th of September, most of the roads in the rear were impassable. None of the fords across the Marecchia and Ouzo could be used. The only bridge over the Marecchia to survive the floods was the Bridge of Tiberias. To the right of the Canadians, the 2nd New Zealand Division had advanced on a 2-brigade front, giving the Canadian Corps control of the east bank of the Fiumicino from San Mauro to the sea. To address German persistence, Lees ordered 2 Polish corps to relieve the New Zealanders at the coast. On the 29th of September 1944, Sir Oliver Lees left 8th Army to assume the duties of Commander-in-Chief, Allied Land Forces in Southeast Asia. He was succeeded by Lieutenant General Sir Richard McCreery, who had commanded 10 Corps from the time of the Salerno landings. It was a signal that a new approach would now be taken to breaking into the Po Valley.